There are, at any given moment, in this year alone, there's about 100 publicly disclosed weather modification programs in this country. If any watch the news, you certainly might have seen that China announced that they would make sure it didn't rain over the Olympics. If China can do this, we certainly know that we're way ahead of them. So I don't know about the funding. The long-term consequences. No one disputes certain consequences of geoengineering, including the proponents of geoengineering, which the people that hold the patents are Lockheed Martin, Hughes Aircraft, Raytheon. It creates drought where the dispersants are spread. It can create a white rainless haze. This is all coming directly from the geoengineers from the International Conference. A white rainless haze, and the water migrates elsewhere and comes down in a deluge. So again, to tamper with these natural systems is nothing but folly. And another consequence that is even perhaps more insidious that no one disputes about geoengineering is that it will decimate the ozone layer. If the sun feels hot on your face of late, I mean, certainly if you have all the scientific data that states that will be a consequence, and they've raised the scale on UV from 1 to 10 to 1 to 15. And no one's given an explanation for why that was necessary. A particular cloud in the upper atmosphere releases chlorine molecules in the ozone and it decimates it, it shreds ozone. So again, what I'm saying, I'm not saying that I know these programs are causing whatever. I'm saying that the science states clearly this will be a consequence. The UV has gone up incredibly rapidly globally, and the toxification issue that we see has shown up in really very indisputable levels. I mean, virtually everything tested has these metals. And again, once you hit the soil, you test for metals in soils. Aluminum is a very abundant element, and you cannot determine from a soil test for sure what has happened. The pHs are different. When pHs have changed the degree they have, that's a very measurable marker. And when aluminum is in your rain, when it's in your precipitation, according to the scientists, the geologists, the biologists, that should not be. And those particulates must be of local origin. They do not migrate across oceans. So the long-term effects, again, it would be difficult to measure when you start tampering with systems on a global scale. Yes?
Here's a before you.
They've done, from a medical standpoint, they've done autopsies on Alzheimer's disease in brains, and they feel that there's a strong feeling that most people that have Alzheimer's disease also have high amounts of aluminum in their brains. If you go down to the drugstore and try to find a neuron deodorant that doesn't have aluminum in it, you're very lucky. But I have been using aluminum for probably the last 30 years because there's speculation that even underarm deodorant, which is full of aluminum, can cause Alzheimer's disease.
You're correct. And so how much more detrimental would it be to inhale ultrafine aluminum particulates? In the Journal of Brain Science recently published an article on the synergism between fluoride and aluminum. Those two have a particular synergism that crosses the blood-brain barrier and is extremely detrimental. So if we have fluoridated water and we have that, where does that lead? I don't want to speculate on those things. I simply want to relay to you that there are articles that speak to the effects of these components in major scientific publications. And I hope that any investigator will look at all of that data and not stop an investigation simply because, one governmental agency might hand out a flyer, and they do. NASA has a flyer that says, everything's fine, go back to sleep. That these things are everything's perfectly normal. And again, aside from what they say, aside from where the most plausible source we can find is the metal is there, and it was not there before. And no agency that we know of has been forced to test yet. So, yes, sir.
Once it's dispersed, it's here, right? If it's settled to the ground and come back up in the air, or they stop dispersing it within?
That's an excellent question. until it rains, for example, if there's a lot of this settling out of the atmosphere, and the descent time, by the way, appears, according to a polymer chemist, to be as low as 10 to 12 hours descent time, which is not very long, from the time of disbursement to maybe as much as 24 hours. That's from a polymer chemist. If there's no rain between disbursements and those particulates, yes, they settle down, wind blows, airborne again, they continue to be a problem. But once precipitation happens, aluminum is a very reactive metal. And according to, I'm repeating what the chemists have told me, the biologist, like in my background is renewable energy, but I am a researcher, that these metals do chelate quickly. They bond to other metals. They become locked up in the soils again. But as depending on the acidity of the rain, they can continue to, if the acidity in the rainfall drops below 5.5, which it can, then that aluminum continues to be reactivated again and again because the acidity reactivates it. So airborne-wise, probably not long-term effects. Soil-wise, could be very long-term effects, soil and water. And also the aluminum is very detrimental to many types of flora, trees, and so forth. The organisms, and we have a lot of tree death that now it's felt may be associated with this, because the roots sense the aluminum, they will not uptake nutrients, and they die a slow death. So there can be long-term effects. Yes, sir.
Dave, we have a guy who has.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If we stick the microphone and people can hear the question.
I tell you what, hey, Aaron, if you're watching, see who's raising your hand the most, and you have the mic, maybe you could pick it, and I'll just go with
Will
it.
do.
Yeah, there's one thing we're missing about contaminants and heavy metals.
Yes.
If sewage sludge is used for fertilizer all over this country, including Chester County, it's full of heavy metals, it's full of pharmaceuticals and other poisons, but yet the EPA is blessing the use of that fertilizer. And that's used everywhere. And a lot of people have died that have lived in proximity to when they start using that stuff in this country. And that's well proven. That's proven by Harvard and a lot of other scientists.
I've read articles about it, you're 100%
And
right.
if you're going to spread heavy metals over the land for fertilizer, you're certainly going to get it in the air.
You are, but again, it's not going to be in the precipitation. Now,
No, it will wash off into the rivers and the streams when it rains.
But the test, for example, the 2/3 of the precipitation tests have been done far, far away, about 20 miles away from highway, agriculture, forested hilltop, which is considered a filtered location. And again, the top of Mount Shasta, these are areas where you would not have that quantity. And certainly to increase that count as much as 50,000% in 4 years in rain, there would have to be some alternate source. And all I'm saying conclusively is that's how much the metal's gone up in 4 years. It's the exact metal called for in these programs. It's exactly what's showing up on the ground. I don't dispute the fertilizer issue, but the kind of quantity to change the forest floor to a degree of 12 times, again, I've never had a biologist or anyone else working on this issue that could possibly come up with that kind of quantity from such a source, though I agree that source is toxic. I'm sorry, where your mic is?
Right here, right here. My understanding is that the Air Quality Resources Board has monitoring stations throughout California, and they monitor routinely. It's not just once a year. I noticed on your flyer you say the Shasta County Air Quality staff.
It's not my flyer. It's done by a lot of people in Northern California. Just
Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's multiple times per year, and that data is paid with our tax dollars, and should be public information. So do you know what the Air Resources Board data is for aluminum? So that would be airborne.
I can tell, yeah, for particulates, I can tell you again what we have been told. I've been in high-level EPA meetings. One, the aerosol particulate testing stations, they're around the globe. There's one on top of Lassen. The companies behind those air testing stations ultimately, from the data we have found, lead to defense contractors, the same ones that have the geoengineering patents. Testing for aluminum, we have been told, and again, perhaps I've been told or not told something or told something wrong, but what we've been told is that the particulates they test for are combustion particulates. They're not testing for whatever they collect, if you understand. They're collecting a sample and testing for certain elements they're told to test for. These are not amongst those elements. So you can have a mountain of material over here, and they're not testing for whatever they collect, only whatever is mandated for them to test for. So that's what we have been told from EPA. So that is why our understanding would be that this is not showing up because it's not being tested for. Aaron's got that back, so.